Welcome back. Normally, when I deal with people and work with teams and individuals, I often ask them the question around, how do you understand how your brain works and how your body works in terms of the patterns you develop, the things that have happened to you over your life journey, and how that's impacted, obviously, on your personality, your undercurrent, whatever you want to call it. There's a number of factors there. Obviously, you've got your body, you've got your brain, you've also got your conscious thoughts, your unconscious thoughts, and then the emotions also intertwined in there kind of make you up as a person. So when you think of yourself as a person, all these things are like that and a part of, each person. So as you come new, baby comes new into the world, they take in everything very unconsciously because they don't understand the language, they don't understand what's necessarily happening around them. They're trying to make sense of the world, and basically your brain and your body are talking to each other and creating connections so that you understand how you feel about stuff. So that's where the body also makes decisions, not just the brain. We think we make decisions with our brain and we can analyze stuff, but how we feel about a situation is very important in that whole decision-making process. And because we take things in passively, and when I teach this stuff with people, a lot of them don't know this pattern. They don't understand that that's happened. So they've become who they've become quite passively. And so this is where, stuff like neuroplasticity is important, because we think this is just us, the nature of us as a person. So I get them to really analyze their emotions, analyze their undercurrent, really think that through, because as kids, we don't really get, you might get lucky because you've got really good parents, you've got very supportive people around you and all that sort of stuff. But in the real world, not everyone has that. And in fact, there's a lot of people that, hurt their own kids, do horrible things to their own kids, or caregivers doing the same, not necessarily their parents, but, other family members and stuff like that. So that has a massive impact on how that person develops and how that person, becomes the adult that they become. And so really understanding, there's a point where, you might feel sorry for the child, like being an ex-cop, or going to houses, see kids that have got terrible parents, and you worry that, these kids are going to end up, not great adults themselves because of, what they've had to endure, and then also what they kind of carry on in terms of similar behaviour because they don't know anything different, they don't have good role models. So understanding all that stuff is really important for the individual. But there comes a time where that child is getting to be an adult and they have to make some decisions. And this is the part where their neuroplasticity stuff says you don't have to be that person and stay on that path because you've had a shitty start to life. You can make some choices and be very deliberate about your thinking. So this is the part where I talk about red brain and blue brain. When you're in a defense mode and you're just scared, there's a fear factor there, you either become aggressive or you tend to become very timid and shy away. So that's that fight or flight thing that you see all the time. And essentially that becomes part of the personality. A lot of people will push people away. They're the aggressive ones. They kind of wanting to keep people at arm's length. And the passive ones, kind of having people around them is great, but they're also doing that just to be a people pleaser. So part of that whole psyche is they're not as effective no matter which one of those defensive styles kind of dominates them. So understanding those things and really focusing on how to make changes in what's happening between your brain and your body, changing your experiences, changing the way you look at things. If you're constantly angry and you're not happy about life, that's that aggressive part that comes out. Those emotions tend to dominate, and you'll have, you'll feel angry, you'll lash out at other people, there'll be an aggressiveness factor to it that's not necessarily helpful. The other thing to remember is, as human beings, we are designed to be around people, other people. We're social animals. The part of the brain, the blue part of the brain I call the prefrontal cortex stuff, are all new parts to higher functioning animals like us who look after their kids. At the end of the day, when a baby gets born, absolutely needs people to help them, right? If a baby's born and there's no adults to help them, they will die. That's just a reality. And for years, it's not just to look after them for a few weeks or stuff like some of the other animals where they then go fend for themselves. We, as human beings, as children, we rely on caregivers to help us, whether that's your parents or someone else, grandparents, all that. If you've got that loving family around you, you're more likely to end up being a useful adult and contributing to the world. Lots of people want to know what their purpose is. And it's not an easy question to answer because, your purpose might be to help other people. Your purpose might be to do something, really, really positive. But think about, this is where that personal thought process and analysis work that you need to do yourself to understand, am I contributing to society? If I'm a person who's, let's just say a person who's, down on their luck, they're going out and stealing stuff because they need money to do stuff. Now, they're taking that from someone else. It's not really contributing. Yes, I know that there's desperation part of it and there's a survival part of it, but understanding and wanting to change that is an important part. I understand that someone might want to go and steal something because they really, really need it to feed their family and that kind of stuff. But there's also a point where, they have to make some decisions around, is this actually beneficial? And am I happy to continue down this path? If you're not happy continuing down that path, and you really need to make, those changes. And again, using Blue Brain to understand what are those steps that you as an individual need to do. My journey is different to anyone else's journey. No one walks the same track that we all walk. So we've got to understand that if you want to make changes, you've got to make them that work for you. What am I not happy with and where do I want to get to? There's a really good line in Alice in Wonderland where she comes to a fork in the road and she asks the Cheshire Cat, which way should I go? And he basically said, well, where do you want to go? And she goes, I don't know. So that's part of that process until you know where you want to go to and have a kind of idea that if, you're stuck, let's say, in that desperation mode where you go, I'm not happy with this. I need to make some changes, or I'm going to go down this path. It's just going to take me there. Or I've got to be really deliberate and say, well, if I want to get myself out of poverty, or I want to get myself out of whatever the situation is, what do I need to do? What are some of those things? When you start asking those questions, you're actually using Blue Brain to think of ways to get you out of there. And when you start taking steps, you see the momentum starts to build and people start to make changes. When I was interviewing people for my book, a lot of them that were in a bad place, maybe suicidal or all kinds of things, when they made that switch, realised that I can't just focus on all this negativity. I need to focus on where I want to get to. Once they started doing that, they start to make things happen. They start to plan it. They take one step at a time in the right direction. It's deviating, but using Blue Brain to kind of deviate in the right ways and the ways that's more effective for you. Really, really good self-talk, wanting to make yourself better really helps. Understanding your brain and your body and how that works, and, talk about affirmations. There's so much stuff on this that talk about things that can get you into a blue brain state so that you're starting to think in a way that's different. Like they say, if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. So if you're not happy with what you're getting, you've got to make that change. And it's really important that you understand that, stuff like analysis work, planning things, writing it down are things that start to plan and put you in a blue brain space to get you out of that bad situation. Thank you.